Good morning. Today's featured orchid is this Miltoniopsis Amber's Charm, a plant that I bought last year, and this is its first rebloom. When I bought it last year, the flowers didn't last very long, and I was kind of regretting the plant. Miltoniopsis are supposed to need lots of humidity to grow, and this one is basically growing in my living room, so it has the humidity of whatever it is that's going on around for the humans. So it's AC in the summer and heating in winter. I don't have any other particular care for this plant, but it's doing very well. It is not the most fastest growing Miltoniopsis, but I have to say that when I bought it, the leaves were very yellow and almost white, and I thought this was a natural feature of this particular Miltoniopsis. But I did give it some calcium nitrate throughout the summer. It seems to have helped a little bit with the leaf color. The leaves are still has some yellowing on it, but it's certainly not half as bad as it used to be. So the plant is recovering to some degree. So from last year, it grew one single pseudobulb, which is this one, which is almost as large as the one that came with the plant, which is this one over here. And so this is the new one here, and so it's doing pretty well overall. So I expected this to bloom in June because I thought they were spring bloomers, but apparently they can bloom anytime they want. So this time around, the plant produced a spike, and I have just 4 flowers, but wow, what a display. It is, the flowers are huge, and there's a really 3D effect, especially with this yellow thing. I mean, I'm not sure if I can show you, but this thing really sticks out. So the first flower that opened is the largest, and it didn't smell for like the first 3 days. And but now they're starting to be scented, and it's a relatively powerful fragrance, but you have to be at least a foot near the plant or the flowers in order to smell it. But it's fabulous. I really like it. It puts on quite the show, and I really want to stress that these plants that I'm featuring are plants that I think most people can grow in a home environment, in a living room, as opposed to a greenhouse. So that's a good thing. If you've noticed, the flowers, they haven't really curled all that much. I'll show you my other Miltoniopsis, which has a more stronger fragrance, but the flowers don't seem to do as well here in my living room. But I keep it around because the fragrance is so powerful and it's so wonderful. Care for these is basically the same for both plants, and basically I have it in some sphagnum moss. Since I keep it very wet, the moss gets green fairly quickly, but it doesn't hinder the plant. But I repot them at least once a year, and straight sphagnum moss, nothing else, and that seems to be sufficient for this plant. So in the winter I keep them a little bit drier, but as the pseudobulb grows, I water them fairly well. And as for water, I vary. Sometimes I use tap water, which is at 180 parts per million, and at other times I'll use RO water, So I don't know, the plant doesn't seem to be too fussy on that. As long as it's flushed regularly and not given too much fertilizer, I think that they will do fine. So Miltoniopsis, Amber's Charm. This is my second Miltoniopsis. This is Miltoniopsis Komodo Pink, and it's one that has bloomed now for 2 straight years in a row, and this is its second blooming this year. The first time I had one huge flower. This time I have 2 smaller flowers, and this one seems to suffer more from the lack of humidity. Like the flowers will turn brown on the sides, and the lip will curl. Sometimes the lip splits, but it is really a pretty flower. This doesn't always happen. It just, I guess this one was under a lot of air conditioning, so it seems to have suffered a little bit. But the flowers are really beautiful on this one, and the fragrance is amazing. The thing with these Miltoniopsis is that the leaves themselves are somewhat brittle at times, and they're easily damaged. So that's why there's a hole there. This one is put out 2 pseudobulbs this year, and so hence why there were 2 spikes this year. And again, this one is also in sphagnum moss. And the good thing is, what they do is once they bloom, I don't know if you can see there, in there, there's a new pseudobulb popping out. So that's what they do after blooming. The pseudobulbs come out. So I expect that once this flower is finished, this pseudobulb in the back will also produce a second pseudobulb. So anyways, I recommend these. I think you should give them a try. And I'm particularly talking about people who live in the more northern climates like Canada and so on. I think this is a good plant to try. As any other orchid, starting with the most healthiest plant is probably the way to go. And unless you know for sure that the media is fresh, I would go in there and I would repot it right away to have a look at the roots. So it doesn't seem to be too finicky when the repotting should be done, because when it's in sphagnum moss, it's really easy to remove the old media and put in some fresh. So I did try these in water culture and they did not like it. But they stay on my low stand, which is the coolest part in winter, and they don't seem to mind. They don't grow as fast in winter. When spring comes around though, you can really see that the growth rate on these pseudobulbs really start to pick up. And once the pseudobulb fattens up, I know I'm going to expect some kind of spike at one point. I don't know if it's 1 or 2. This one tends to put out 2 spikes per pseudobulb. It didn't this year, but it did last year. And the other one, this one here, only came with 1 spike last year. So maybe that's the norm for this one. I'm not sure. But it didn't seem as strong as the Komodo Pink. So I'm not pushing it. I'm really glad that it put out these lovely flowers. And I think that these 2 are a great addition to any orchid collection for indoor growers, windowsill growers in general. So thank you for watching.